Hi, I'm Jenna Clark, and each week I'm going to come to you and bring you one tip to improve your confidence at work. Each week I'll be tackling a small topic and giving you a bite-sized chunk to take away and practice for the week. So this week I'm talking about negativity bias and how that impacts your confidence and can contribute to you feeling imposter syndrome at work. So what is negativity bias? It's our predisposition as human beings to believe the negative over the positive. It's believed to come from an evolutionary process whereby our ancestors who believed that the worst was going to happen were the more likely ones to perceive danger in advance and to survive situations. And they've passed that down to us as their survivors. And now all of us live and breathe it day to day to one extent or another, but we're no longer running away from the saber-toothed tigers or life-threatening situations that our ancestors were, and yet we still have this same predisposition to believe the negative over the positive. What does it look like? Well, it's our likelihood to believe insults over praise. So that you tend to see in things like feedback from managers or from team members. If you receive 50-50 balance in the positive feedback and the negative, you're very likely to gloss over the positive and just focus on what you perceive to be negative. We're also more likely to predict negative outcomes rather than positive and use up a lot of anxious energy anticipating that when it's actually not particularly likely to happen, and definitely not more likely to happen than the positive in most cases. We will give negative stimuli more thought and energy than positive stimuli in our brain processes. Neuroscience has tracked that we will fire up receptors to those negative thoughts much more readily and with more energy than we will the positive. We give a disproportionate response to negative probability. We'll panic about unlikely events, whereas we will take the thought of positive ones either in our stride or almost ignore the fact that they're likely to happen. We will also perceive that we will learn more from negative events. We even have the phrase now, kind of learning from failure. But how often do we learn from our successes? And we perceive that the negative is more believable, more truthful than the positive. Unfortunately, our media know that, so they write newspaper stories with a negative lilt to them, and our politicians know that. They will feed into our fears, uncertainties and doubts much more than they will our sense of reward or connection. So our negativity bias is not only existing in us, but it's fed into on a daily basis by social media, politics, regular media, the people around us. So we're kind of a bit up against it. And that in turn builds imposter syndrome, that sense of uncertainty, the not knowing, the what could happen, the sense of being discovered, the believing the worst. So what's my one tip in terms of negativity bias for you this week? Well, the action I'd like you to take away is to tip the balance in how you view things retrospectively. So whereas you may usually focus on what went wrong, what I'd like you to do this week for the whole week is when you feel yourself reflecting, in fact, create a specific time at the end of each day or maybe at the end of each half day to reflect 20% on what's not gone to plan and what you can learn from it, and 80% focus on celebrating every little thing that has gone right and believe that you are showing up, evidence the ways you are showing up the right way, how you belong in the role you're in, how you're doing a great job. And I look forward to speaking to you again next week. Have a good week. Thanks.